Hello, hello. Welcome to Rovali's podcast. We have a super fun guest with us today, and his name is Dan Nobles. He is a musician, songwriter, guitarist. I'm going to let him kind of give you a background because this gentleman is so talented. It will do an injustice to you if I try to tell you who he is. So I'm going to let him do the talking. And I want you to sit back and relax because guess what? We are in for a real treat today. So welcome again. Dan, welcome to Rovali's podcast. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So if you wouldn't mind, give our viewers a little brief history on who you are, where you come from, and then we'll talk about this amazing project that you just released.
Okay, yeah, I come from I'm the baby of five, and so both my older brothers played. One played bass, one played guitar. Both my sisters sing. Coming up, I just did music like I thought everybody did. I thought everybody did it. And I started writing songs a long time ago, but, I picked up guitar first. I love to play guitar, cut my teeth on rock music in the 80s, and my interest just kind of grew. I had phases of had a big blues phase. I had a big kind of a jazz phase, prog rock phase, all those things. I love so much music, and I've taught guitar for a long time. So whatever influences are on this album, I think my guitar students over the years are partially responsible for that because they introduced me to a bunch of stuff. But so I picked up guitar, picked up bass, started writing words, didn't really want to sing, but felt like somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it, So I started putting things together and, did some projects. Basically, over the last probably 10, 15 years, I spent so much time as a hired gun in local bands and doing, I toured with a country band for a while. And honestly, after a while, I began to realize I've been doing music my whole life, but I haven't really put together something this is my original thing. And that became just really important to me, frankly, over lockdown. During COVID, I've had a lot of time to think, as we all did, some of us did, some of you maybe you didn't, because maybe you stayed open. I don't even know, No, you didn't, huh? Because I know some places did, and but I had a lot of time to kind of sit and think, what do I want to do with all the time that I've put into playing instruments and writing? And that's when I determined I want to put together something and really put myself out there. And that's how this album came to be.
Okay. Well, so my friend Dan here just let the cat out of the bag. I was trying to build some anticipation and he let it all out of the bag, but that's good because he's doing what he's got to do. Okay, that's how we interview. It's awesome. Just so you know, Dan, I will get you for this. Okay.
Okay, what did I let out of the bag? I don't understand.
Your album. I was in a crescendo.
I see.
No, but so I'd like to tell you guys, Dan, I met him at a little bar called the Iron Horse, and a long time ago. And he's, what he said about, being a hired gun. I don't think that was his band. He was sitting in with somebody, but I'm going to tell you guys, I was so amazed by his guitar playing. Like, I just thought to myself, I've been involved in music, and not from a musician standpoint, but from an admiration standpoint of knowing and wondering what goes into, what drives a musician. Anyway, I sat there having a beer and I'm watching Dan play, and I just thought to myself, this guy is really good. And that kind of made me think, and then we got together. It was some time ago, Dan. You'll have to help me remember. when we talked about doing this podcast, because you had this project coming up. And I do
Yeah.
say, Dan, I'm going to let you say the name of the album that you just released. But before he does that, and then um, I want to go into how a person like you comes up with the lyrics for a song and kind of the mechanics of building a song. Um,
Right.
and I think that would be really interesting. But what's the name of your brand new album?
The album is called Loud Love.
Okay, so with that being said, I have gone through. He's got a wonderful sampler that you can go and sample the tracks, so you can see. And there's so much variation in there. It's spectacular. It's a really really good album. And don't forget, don't worry, we will post all the information in this podcast in the description so that you can go and check it out. But I'm getting ready to buy this album, and not because Dan's my friend or we're doing this podcast. I am buying this album because it's that good. Okay, it is that good. So, Dan, let me ask you a couple of questions. You grew up in the music industry or in the music business and so
Yeah.
forth. And there were specific times in your life where the music meant more to you than others, or there were certain moments, right, that were big things.
Yeah.
When you're thinking of a song, I mean, how does the concept germinate for a particular song in your mind?
Usually when I think back to moments where a song, like, you can feel it forming in your mind or forming in your heart, it comes from an emotional need. It comes from the emotional need to express something, to whether it's by way of catharsis, to just let the feelings out, or sometimes to just dive into those feelings and explore them as a way of kind of like healing yourself, because a lot of music comes out of, I mean, some of it comes out of joy, but some of it comes out of trauma as well. I think some of the earliest songs I ever wrote were about unrequited love, the girl that doesn't know I exist. And here I am, but I got to write a song about it because I'm too shy to go do anything about it at that. I was 17 or whatever. But where it really starts is there's something inside me, something has to be said. And it'll usually pop out as it could be anything. If I grab a bass and maybe I'm playing along and there's something I like, I can build a song around it. Sometimes I'm, brushing my teeth and a phrase will pop into my head. And I think, I like that phrase. That can be a point of germination.
Right.
And then you write words, and then music will flow from that. A lot of the stuff on this particular album came from grabbing a guitar and I'm playing along. I think I'm gonna practice, which I used to do a lot more of. But now when I pick up a guitar and I think I'm gonna practice, I'm gonna bust my chops, I'm gonna play scales, I'm gonna get better on guitar, I wind up writing something. I wind up writing a little something, and I go, hey, I kind of like that. And maybe with that, there could be this. And maybe with that, there could be this. And I start to hear a drum beat or something. And it just kind of takes on a life of its own.
Okay. So
Yeah.
would you say that most of your songs, if not all of them, tell some story of a place that you have been personally? That even though a cool rhythm comes to mind, you're
Right.
writing a song about that, but it's still, whether it's a rhythm or an idea or whatever, but it comes from. Would you say, what percentage would you say is personalized to your walk in your life?
All of it.
Wow.
All of it. Everything. Because, when I was younger, 17, 18, even into my 20s, I wrote some music that was like this would be a cool thing to write about. I want to write about this because I think that would be cool, or I think people would like it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized at a certain point, especially listening to my favorite artists, was that many of my most favorite artists are brutal in their honesty about themselves in some way. They're turning themselves inside out. And I found that I really admire that. And I felt like, how could I write the best songs that I have inside of me? How could I make the best music that I can? And I honestly think the way to do it for me is to turn myself inside out.
Wow.
And, you kind of reveal yourself. Don't hide. Just don't hide. I'm not a rock star. I don't want to have a persona of like, oh, Dan Noble's the PR image or whatever. And my music is, because at that point, your music just becomes a mask. It becomes what you're presenting to the world, like a filter. I don't want that. I think that the best thing that you can offer as an artist is whatever your experiences really are, because that's where the real connection comes in. If I write a song and it connects with somebody, whether it lifts them out of a dark place, or maybe it's a dark song and it's kind of helping them get down into that dark place, but it ultimately helps them feel better. To me, that's really what it's about. That's what music does for me.
Well, I wonder, you can hear, and I think it's the spirit of music, really, for me in particular. I can hear a song that takes me back 30 years, to a spot immediately. It's almost like a certain, aroma. It takes you back, and the music has that kind of power to do that. And like you said, when an artist turns him or her side inside out, to reveal whether it's the pain or the happiness or whatever it is that the song is about, I think that resonates, with so many people that may be going through something similar, heartache, lonesomeness, family, whatever the case may be. And I think that pulls at the heartstrings. But I also think it's kind of a logical thing, because when I listen to lyrics, and when I listen to the lyrics of the sampler, just the sampler of Loud Love, man, that was heavy duty. It was not I don't want to say I don't want to say it was just cerebral or anything like that. It was just like the words came together in such a poetic fashion, that it was powerful and melodic at the same time. And it was really cool. And some of those songs are super powerful, and I only got to hear this much. So I got to hear the rest of the story, man.
Right. No, that's good, and when it comes to the words, that's something that I've always been really, really into, like really passionate about. My dad he had such an amazing vocabulary, and he was really into words. Like, he was a wordsmith, and we used to debate, or we would have long talks, about about anything. And I just remember from a really young age, he was all about teaching me new words, and but also the meanings behind them, and kind of the etymology of words. I came to share his fascination with language. And I also grew up listening to Rush, they were big on words. They like, Neil Peart writing the words. But it really struck me at 12, 13, 14 years old, like, this is rock poetry.
Yeah.
This is pretty, there was a lot of thought and love put into it. And even though I really appreciate that, I also appreciate rock lyrics that are just about letting your hair down and having a good time, But I find that when I'm just being me and I'm just trying to put things forward, it does take on it'll take on a form and then I start to adhere to the form that I've created, like a poetic form. But the great thing about music is, instead of like writing a sonnet, or writing something that has a predetermined form, according to the melody that you've created, you can create your poetic form and then adhere to it if you choose to.
Right. Oh, and you know what comes to mind is whenever I hear any kind of song where a violin comes in, I'm like, okay, I know where they're going now. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's certain, it's almost like being a great poker player, right? You can read the table and you're able to pull what you want out to get what you want. But I think also there's a certain freedom and a certain chance that you take when you're just relying on, this is the image. It's not, I'm going to make it pop, 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 right? So I get this certain group, but I'm going to just put this out there, and whatever, let the chips fall where they may.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I knew when I started this, I actually, I have a lot of ideas on a hard drive that have just been sitting for a long time, and new ideas are always kind of churning out, and I think it was January of 2021, that I made a New Year's resolution that I wasn't going to start a bunch of little ideas and then kind of abandon them and move on, and and get that sort of, I'm always popping with ideas but nothing's getting completed. And I thought I really should stop doing that. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick a song that isn't completed yet. Doesn't even really matter what it is. I'm going to grab onto one and I'm going to finish it, and then I'm going to move forward. And I did that between January and May. And then I lost my dad in May. He was 84. Lost my dad in May, and I lost about 4 months there. I didn't record anything, really. I didn't do much. I wrote some lyrics about the experience, but I just kind of lost all my momentum, just grieving. And then at a point I thought, you start to get those thoughts. Well, Dad was always very encouraging about my music and about my career, and always believed in my talent, and I need to pick this back up again, and I need to finish it, so
okay, so that's
I did.
That is the perfect segue, Dan. Let's start talking about this album that you created and that you released, and just give me you kind of gave me the genesis and the background of the way and the style and the way that you look at music and stuff, but I'd like to just dive right into the album itself. Talk to me about that.
Okay, well, let's see. The first song on the album, it's called I'm Okay Now, and it's a song about absolutely not being okay. It's meant ironically, but really difficult experience. Back in about 2012, I don't know if your listeners even know this, but I was born with cerebral palsy. And you know this because we've seen each other in person, and you've seen that I walk with 2 canes and I have difficulty ambulating. Okay. And in 2012, my left hip was so bad. I didn't have a hip socket on that side. It was just like bone on bone. The cartilage had worn out, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't function. And so at the time I wasn't insured, and I had to go on a waiting list. And in the meantime, a doctor was prescribing Percocet for me so that I could get through my day, so that I could walk and do gigs and teach guitar and those things. And I was on that waiting list for about a year. So by the time I got surgery, I was heavily dependent on it because my tolerance was growing. I had to take more and more to get the pain relief. And I had some moments where I remember a particular moment. I was sitting at my computer. I was working on an idea, kind of under that opiate blanket of just kind of a numbness. And I got a pain in my leg, and I thought, okay, it's about time to take another couple of pills. And I had this moment of clarity of like, this is my life. This is how it is. What if they say no? What if I don't get surgery? Eventually, this stuff is going to depress my nervous system. I'm going to go to sleep and I'm just not going to wake up again. And I had a panic attack. And out of that experience, I thought, first of all, just take a breath. Don't think like that. Just kind of get through the next few moments. Fight back. You're going to get surgery. You're going to get through this. You're going to get off the pills. It's going to work out eventually. But I had a moment of despair, and I thought it would be interesting and cathartic for me to write a song where it's kind of floating along and everything seems like it's okay. And then there's a point where it just goes off the rails and my inner demons are yelling about the situation. And it's heavy guitars, drop tune, just beating you over the head. But the sensation of the song is that happens, and then I take a pill, and then I go back to floating.
Wow.
And like, oh, I'm okay now. I'm okay now. But you're not. You're really not.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so I thought, and then it kind of made me giggle, like, that's one of the longest songs on the album, and it's absolutely not what you would call the single. But I like the song a lot, and I thought, well, if I stick this on the album first, and anybody hears it first, if they can dig that, then we're safe for the rest of the album. If that turns them on, maybe they'll like the rest of it. So, yeah. So I mean, that was probably one of the toughest to write as well, because writing those lyrics, I'm churning up all those feelings and, kind of excavating.
So what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do the lyrics come first? Does the music come first? Are they simultaneous? Do you build them side by side? How does the technical part of that work?
By hook or by crook, as they say, anything you can grab onto. In the case of I'm Okay Now, it actually began with a little guitar thing with no words. And I recorded that, and I liked the little snippet, and I kind of liked the feel of it. And then I wanted to write some words that felt like they would marry with that. And as a matter of fact, I just happen to have 10 or 12 guitars right here.
Yeah.
But I wanted to show you the riff. It just started with this. Just like a little picking thing. And I thought, it feels kind of melancholy. And so when I began to write the words, I thought, what if I wrote a love song to a pill?
Wow.
Which is creepy and strange, and
wow.
But,
I got chills.
Almost like you're writing to a girl that you like, except that it's a pill. And the line popped into my head, I'm emotionally dependent on you now. Like a stalker, kind of like I need you, I can't live without you. And that scares both of us, So I thought, yeah, hey, write a song about that,
That's crazy, man. It's beautiful though, just to marry the two things together. It's poetic, like you mentioned earlier. It is poetic.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Because if poetry is moving, it's because it's honest. And I really wanted to be honest about it, even though I feel a little bit exposed putting this out there. But at a point, you realize if I don't feel naked when I publish something, I'm still hiding. You know, I'm
Yeah.
still holding something back. I don't want to do that. I don't want to hold something back. I
Yep.
want to I want to share my experiences because, you know, that song came out of, essentially it came out of disability and the pain pill addiction that was an involuntary thing, and me having to deal with all that stuff. But my disability is just, in other people's worlds, that's just a metaphor for adversity. Everybody has some form of adversity, you know,
Yep.
whatever it is that's going on in your life. In my life, it's pretty apparent when you see me walk into the room. Oh, he has a particular difficulty. But there's millions of the rest of us walking around where it's less apparent, but no less powerful, and it's no less real. And they live with it every single day.
I think that's why music, as they say, is a universal language. I think
Mm,
that's why, is because everyone around the world can identify with that parts, if not the whole song or a whole album, they can identify with parts of it.
right, right.
Yep.
Yeah, the hope, I mean, my hope is if somebody hears the line, I'm emotionally dependent on you now. For me, that was one thing. For somebody else, that could be alcohol. It could be their ex. It could be, well, you know, who knows, food, something. Something upon which they feel dependent that they wish that they could kick to the curb.
Yep.
And I can't wait until you hear the whole thing, because the way that song ends is not in the preview, and it's weird.
So another question I have for you, and I'm really curious, the album cover. Tell me
Yeah.
about that image. It's cool. It's a really cool image.
Um, you know, it came out of where we were talking about turning yourself inside out and being artistically honest, and a human heart is a good visual presentation of that. And I knew I wanted to present it in some kind of a unique way. Um, I began talking with my daughter about it because she does graphics and things like that, and I told her the one thing I want to stay away from is the cartoon heart of, like, you know, like you'd see on a Valentine. I would like it to be a semi-realistic heart, but it has to be surreal in the sense that I don't want it to be red. It's got to be a color that a human heart isn't, and I wanted the heart to sort of be embedded with some of the visual imagery from the songs. Um, and I actually talked to my student and friend Mike Latham, who owns Symbol Arts. You might be familiar with. Yeah, they're an art company, so shout out to Symbol Arts. But he helped me tremendously with that because they do professional art and they've done professional album covers. And out of our conversations and guitar lessons, he said, well, you know, I have some artists that could really help you. Tell me what you want, and then I'll pass that on. And we passed ideas back and forth over a couple of weeks, and his artist Anne, I can't remember her last name, but her first name was Anne. She presented me with some ideas that I really liked, and I gave her notes about, can we include a boot? Can we include some chains? Can we have some narcotics there on the, you know, on the heart? And so that's where some of that imagery is, because of course the pills are for I'm okay now, and there's also the song Back in My Cage, which was the latest, second to the latest song that I wrote for the album anyway. But that's again about Percocet addiction and about the determination never to go back into that cage. Like, no matter what happens, I'm not going back in there, you know. I'm going to stay out of that cage because I just want to live my life. And Back in My Cage is a pretty heavy song, you know. It's more Whereas I'm okay now is kind of melancholy and it's like a love song to a pain pill. Back in my cage is get out of my face. I'm not doing that again. Get away from me. You know, it's that kind of determination.
Well, like you said, even though that song is about narcotics in particular for you,
Yeah.
and how you penned the song, but again, it can be a metaphor for anything that keeps you caged up, that keeps you locked up, that keeps you isolated.
Right. That's absolutely true. And it's so important that it's wonderful that music has that quality. I hope there's a bunch of people that hear the songs, don't know this yet, and they identify with it in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come to this interview and they go, oh, well, okay, I didn't know that. I mean, I've done that. I'm sure you have too.
Yeah.
Lots of times where you just like a song, maybe you like the vibe, you like the words or something, but it means something to you. And then you go find out kind of the impetus behind the song, and it hopefully just becomes gives it a little more depth.
Right.
You know.
So let me ask you this, Dan. On the album, do you have additional musicians that are playing the other instruments?
No, no. That, with the exception of one drum performance, which comes with some caveats, every sound is a drum sample that I took from the keyboard behind me, or I hit the desk and recorded it, or it's the flick of a lighter and I recorded that. I created samples to use as percussion, and then I placed them by hand in my software to create the drum sounds that I wanted, because I physically don't play the drums, right? And maybe someday there's a way that I could, but it would require a special drum set of some kind. That's down the road for me, maybe, you know. But yeah, out of necessity, essentially, I used samples. But I played all the guitars. I did all the voices. I played bass. I did piano parts. You know, everything. Just down here in the middle of the night, doing my thing. You know.
Yeah, that's awesome, and just to understand the creativeness of because every instrument that you did play has to fit with the vision and the auditory experience that you're imagining,
Right.
and so having you do it, you're putting it exactly where you need it, and that's phenomenal, you know, to do that.
And it's fun. I mean, it's just really fun to do, to just tinker and experiment and listen and try different things. Sometimes it's very, very clear what I want and I just sort of do it. And then sometimes I'm working something one way. Right in the middle of one of the songs, I realized, yeah, this is too slow. The whole thing's too slow. And if I'm going to get what I want, I have to start over.
Yep.
And so I did. Because nowhere on this album, if it pops on, if somebody's putting it on, we're listening to it, there's nowhere where I'm gonna close my eyes and cringe and think, oh, I wish I would have done that differently. Like, it doesn't have any of those moments, and that's important to me.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, and I'm the same way. I write poetry, or I try to. I don't want to say I'm a poet.
Yeah. Oh, you are though. Go ahead.
But I write poetry, and you know, and sometimes I'm just like you. When you were describing how you you know, come up with the lyrics and the music and the sound and everything, you were kind of describing how I think. I can latch on to something real quick, like you said, and a poem will come out in about 3 minutes, the whole thing. And no rewrites, no, oh, I got to fix this or I got to fix that. It just comes out. And then other times I'll hold on to an idea for 5 years.
Yeah.
And it comes out, you know. But it's got to be, like you said, it can't be forced. It's got to It's got to flow, because I think that lends to authenticity.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to hammer, you know, a square peg into a round hole, and then you go back and you go, okay, if I just tweak this, if I just touch this here, then it fits.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't know if it's because you get used to it, you get used to the idea,
Right.
or something else.
Right. Right. Yeah. There have been songs that I'm working on where I'll just do placeholder parts. Like I've got a what they call a scratch vocal, which is it's not your final vocal. Maybe all the words aren't even written yet, and I'm just sort of mana 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 singing a tune without any lyrics on it, but I don't want to forget the melody.
Right.
Uh, and then as it begins to coalesce, sometimes, and I've learned a lot of songwriters do this. They'll sing nonsense words, or they've got the right amount of syllables, but it's not really lyrics per se. It's just sort of like words strung together for you to hang the idea on. Well, you can get so accustomed to that that it starts to sound right. And and then you don't want to let it go. And it's just a question of, hey, how cool is it? Is it so cool that I want to keep it even though it didn't start as a final idea? Or do I need to be honest and scrap it and build some real words for it? That's all part of the decision making process, because it's all, what does your gut tell you? If your gut tells you it's good, keep it.
Well, and things morph all the time too, and all of a sudden sometimes you get used to it, and
Yeah.
you're, like I said, with the square peg in a round hole, you start to, okay, if I just did this, this, and this, this is cool. I like this, and so it doesn't mean that you have the exact thing in a row. There's
Right.
trial and error, and you find something a little bit better, and then you meld that into the whole mix, and you're like, okay, I'm happy with that. I like that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: have you
Sure.
ever written a song and you're like, yeah, this is it, and then years later you're like, yeah, no, that's not it, and you go back and change an original song? Have you ever done that?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Are you kidding me? Like there's a good example on this album. At the end of the album, there's a song called Lucky Bastard. And that song is about my girlfriend. It's a love song. It's about waking up. It's about waking up every day, looking in the mirror and thinking, you lucky bastard. You get to love her. You get to love her. She's wonderful, and you get to be with her. You get to hug her. You get to share your life with her. You're a lucky bastard, right? But that's not how that song started. Okay. That actually, the tune of that song and all the chords and everything. And as a matter of fact, the guitar solo that's on the record now is an exact replica of one that I recorded when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
And I just copied it exactly because I thought that's nostalgia, and that's going to be fun for me, And besides, I think the solo is kind of cool. But the words were just poor me, woe is me. The song was called It's Just Me. It's my problem, let me be. Just leave me alone. It was very teen angst, and it's fine. My sister, one of my older sisters, actually prefers that version. And the last time she came over, she was, why'd you change it? Why'd you change it? And I said, there's a point where you gotta I felt like I could write a better song. I felt like I had better words in me. And I want this song to be uplifting and positive. And I did record the original version in the last few months, and I listened back to it, Alex, and I thought, this is kind of a drag. Like, this is kind of a bummer. And it's not representing who I am. It's representing who I was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I think it was Ernest Hemingway who said, write drunk, edit sober,
I like
or something along those lines, or create without fear, edit without mercy.
Oh man, I like that one too.
Yeah,
I like
that's powerful to me. Like,
create
because
without fear, edit without mercy.
yeah, yeah.
Like that.
And when I looked at those lyrics and I thought, yeah, this is from a long time ago and it's like part of my photo album of my life, but these are not the best words I could write. So let's just be honest and write better words. And that became Lucky Bastard, which is the last song on the album. And I like it a lot more than it was before.
So, can I ask you? Could you give us another little sample of your guitar playing? You said you had one
Sure.
that had a nice, not a riff, but a melody to it. And I'd love to, for the folks that are watching this interview, to hear your guitar playing.
Sure. Like something from the album or just whatever?
Yeah, yeah, from the album. Absolutely.
Okay, let's see. Make sure that I'm tuned up here. It's pretty cold in my basement, actually, and the guitars don't like to stay in tune. So here's the fun part. We're on the podcast. I sit in tune. I know that's exactly what you wanted.
Oh, this is great because then people know that this isn't rehearsed. It's just all
Right?
off the cuff, and that's how we like to do it.
Let's see.
Well, he's tuning up, guys. I want to encourage you to go to his website. It's called dannobles.net, and I'm going to spell it out for you. DANNOBLES.net. And go out and check out this album, and you can buy it right from his website, which is fantastic. You set up the cart and everything, and it's ready to be purchased. So I would encourage you guys, go out and listen to the samples, and I promise you, you're really going to like it. All right, Dan.
Awesome.
Hey, baby.
All right, I'll do part of a song, but I'm just going to improvise a little bit for a second.
Fine.
All my plans got rearranged. I was reeling from the pain. I had nothing figured out, and I was plagued by fear and doubt. You took my heart into your hands, gave my trust a place to land. So every day I check the mirror and I say good morning. Lucky bastard, you get to love her today. Get to be a listener to her dreams and of her day. Hey there, beautiful will be her name all day. May you never take for granted, lucky bastard.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. Wow. Great, and a great melody, great tune. I love it. So, Dan, let me ask you this. If you were to encapsulate this new album, Loud Love,
Yes.
in a sentence, in a phrase, for your listeners, and for people who don't know who you are yet,
Yeah.
how would you paraphrase that?
I would say be your authentic self, just as fearlessly as you can do it. That's really what it's about. That's what it's about for me. It's about being myself with no sort of shyness or apologies about it, and again, being comfortable in your own skin, you know.
What would you tell somebody? I want to go a little bit deeper into that because
Sure.
that's a heavy duty statement. Um, what would you tell somebody who's listening to this and watching this? Um, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to not be afraid. I don't know how to, not be shy about things. What kind of advice would you give them for that?
If whatever urges creatively that you're getting, like let's suppose it's poetry, um, grab your notebook, keep your ideas, and when you get that little voice inside you saying, I don't know about this idea, I think it's too weird, I don't think people are going to like this, or I'm afraid nobody's going to, somebody's going to laugh at it, or whatever, you get that insecurity, keep it, nurture it, um, you know, and eventually you'll begin to develop the confidence to put it forward. And you have to keep at it. I do think that an artist insecurity is such a common malady. We all have something, I think. Maybe I'm projecting. Maybe we don't all have something that we want to create, but I think a lot of us do. Many of us do. And we get that insecurity about nobody's going to like it. It's been done before. That sort of thinking. Practice pushing that aside and practice the artist's audacity of putting your idea forward, not out of narcissism or any of those sort of negative emotions, but to put it into the world, not only for your good, but for others. It's something to gather around. I think my hope is that an album like this is really just a campfire for people to gather around.
Wow, great,
It's there,
vision.
it's there for warmth. It's there for light. It's
Mm.
there for comfort. That's what it's there for.
Oh, I love
And
that.
we have a lot. I know you have your favorite albums. You probably feel that way about them. I do, and I, for a long time, I had this good old fashioned fear of rejection and, that insecurity about, I had to ask myself, why have I not published already? Why are these ideas not getting finished? And it was uncomplicated. Really, when I got right down to the bottom of it, it was good old fashioned fear of failure and rejection. And you do it anyway. And I began to understand that if I put this album out and all I hear is crickets, I'm okay, because maybe 12 people will like it, maybe 1,200, maybe nobody, but at the end of the day, you're putting your art into the world, and that's kind of what, I don't know, for me, it just feels like what I need to be doing.
Yeah, and I like that. And so I want to ask you one final question before we end the interview. And you've already alluded to it, but I want to ask it to you, and I just want your perspective only, not not giving it to people to maybe understand or not understand. But what does it mean for you to leave your mark on the world?
Oh yeah, and that's something that I was thinking about, and that's a big part of the drive behind this, and it's also the reason why right now I'm 6 songs deep into the next album. Like, I'm going to be cranking them out, hopefully over the next couple of years, because it's about legacy. We don't live forever. Memento mori, as they say, right? And when I'm gone, I want my daughter and all my grandbabies to be able to listen back to something and go, hey, there's that guy, you know. It means the world to me. In a funny way, it's really the only thing that you, whatever you create in the world, that's what you leave behind. Your legacy is your art, but also how you treat people, how they remember you, how you made them feel, you know, whether you lifted them up or you shut them down. And I just want to be somebody that lifts people up and helps them realize their potential and whatever their needs are. That's why I'm a guitar teacher, you know. It's about that desire to help them fulfill their vision for themselves. But the album specifically is a way of lifting people up that will outlive me. And so the reason why it's important to reach as many people as I can has nothing to do with notoriety or success or any of those things. It's about how many people you touch with your music. That's a human connection that really drives what I'm doing right now.
Yep, and with long lasting, I don't want to say results, that's not the right word, but long lasting memories of moments that take you back to a place where you did find strength, hopefully, you know, that you were hurt in a specific spot in life. And, you know, I talk a lot about legacy to people and to my family in particular. So you really hit a chord with me there as well. Mr. Dan Nobles, it was a great interview. The album is fantastic. Is there a final word that you'd like to share with the viewers today on the album or anything else?
Well, when you go listen to it, just give me some feedback. Let me know how it made you feel. Let me know your feelings on it. Tell me your story, because me reaching out to an audience is only half of the artistic experience. When somebody reaches back, then the circuit is complete. And that's what I'm looking for. I look forward to that.
Well, it was a fantastic interview from my perspective. You spoke a lot of wisdom and I appreciated it. Great interview. You guys, I want to encourage you, go to dannobles.net. No hyphens, no spaces, all just one word, DANNOBLES.net. Go check it out, sample it, purchase it, leave comments. I like complete the circuit, as Dan said. Complete the circuit, leave him some feedback, and whether you like it or not like it, you know, leave him some feedback.
Oh yeah.
You know, he's down for that. He's not just fishing for compliments. He wants to know. He wants to know how it made you feel. And I think a true artist, that's what they care about, is how their music makes you feel. So Dan, thank you again for taking the time to meet with us. And you know, I want to hear about your next album when it comes out as well. And let's do this again, man. It was a lot of fun.
Sounds great. And I'll see you at Rovali's.
And there you go. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the flip side.